Number 12. Roland Westling and Hazel Woodhams. In 2011, British couple Roland Westling and Hazel Woodhams took up camping and went on a trip to the Norfolk Broads on a weekend in July. They had set up a barbecue outside their tent to do all their cooking, but hours later, after they had finished up, they decided to bring it into the tent to protect it from passers-by or rain. They made sure it was cool to the touch and had no flame before setting it on the porch area and retired to bed. Unfortunately, one key element they hadn't checked was if the gas had been turned off. At 6 a.m., Westling awoke extremely sick and disoriented and frantically called for help. As they were camped in a secluded area, help wasn't close by, but he was eventually rushed to the hospital. Doctors discovered that the carbon monoxide levels in his blood were extremely high. Carbon monoxide poisoning blocks oxygen and can quickly suffocate victims from the inside out. The brain can suffocate in just 4 minutes, causing lasting effects, if not death. Westling damaged a kidney and nearly lost an arm, but was lucky to have woken up when he did. Unfortunately, the same couldn't be said for Hazel Woodhams, who died at the scene. Number 11. Nadia Sawalia. Star of British talk show Loose Women, Nadia Sawalia suffered gruesome burns to her neck after she tried putting a bottle of honey in the microwave in July of 2021. The 56-year-old was vacationing in her father's brand new seaside caravan when the incident occurred. She put the bottle of hard, crystallized honey in the microwave to try and soften it up, only to get distracted by a passing windsurfer that she'd spotted through the kitchen window. As she returned to check on the bottle, it was seconds away from exploding and flew out of the pot, spraying scorching hot honey all over the ceiling, floor, and Nadia's neck. According to her, the pain was unbearable. She immediately started screaming and pulled her clothes off before sticking her head under the sink. After posting photos of her injuries to Instagram, the talk show host counted herself lucky that the honey hadn't hit her in the face. Number 10. Chen. A knife fight broke out between two chefs in a Long Island sushi restaurant in September of 2016. The fight, taking place at the Ichiban Sushi Restaurant and Hibachi Grill, was between one of the sushi chefs and one of the kitchen chefs, both of whom were newly employed. According to the reports, the chefs were using expensive sushi knives in the fight, but it was uncertain exactly what had caused the disagreement. One of the men was rushed to the hospital as he was seriously cut up, but didn't receive life-threatening injuries. Only one combatant was named as Chen, who was arrested for assault in the aftermath. Number 9. Melilla, China. An explosion coming from the kitchen of a small restaurant in Melilla, China, left 34 people injured in November of 2020. It took place at around lunchtime, with the blast itself and the aftermath all caught on camera. Surveillance footage showed the first apparent explosion that resulted in puffs of smoke coming from an entrance. As several people approached to see what had happened, the room and the entire screen were engulfed in a ball of flames. The restaurant was left in shambles as people were seen fleeing, one of them with their clothes caught on fire. Firefighters responded quickly, and of the 34 affected, only one was left with serious injuries. Authorities suspected it was a gas explosion, but an investigation was launched. Number 8. Unnamed New Zealand man. In 2021, a New Zealand man burned down his house after leaving a steak to cook in his toaster oven. Popping out to get some chips at the convenience store, the man, whose identity was not revealed, returned to find the house he shared with his partner set ablaze. Lucky to have left at the right time, or regretful to have missed an opportunity to nip the incident in the bud, the damage to the home was in the hundreds of thousands. To make matters worse, the couple's insurance company didn't reimburse them enough for the rebuilding costs, citing that cooking a steak in a toaster oven is literally a recipe for disaster. Number 7. Daniel S. A man only identified as Daniel S. from Morelia, Mexico, was microwaving popcorn when it exploded. While unpacking a new vacuum he'd just bought with his wife, the man left the room to make the snack, setting a timer. Unfortunately, when he returned and reached his hand inside the microwave to retrieve the bag, he was given an electric shock and the appliance exploded. Paramedics were called to the scene immediately, but Daniel succumbed to the extensive burns and lesions that covered his body. The cause of the explosion was never revealed by the ensuing investigation, but it's suspected that the high-voltage oven had charged something left unintentionally inside. Number 6. Clarissa Montgomery. On June the 14th of 2021, elementary school teacher and mother Clarissa Montgomery suffered from severe burns while trying to fry tortilla chips in her kitchen. An avid home cook, she'd prepared the dish several times before, but on that particular occasion, she made one crucial mistake. Instead of scooping away from her, Montgomery scooped the chips towards her. As she did that, she caught the sizzling pan and inadvertently pulled it off the stove, bathing her legs and backside in boiling hot oil. The oil caused second and third degree burns on 30% of her body and left her in excruciating pain. After being treated, she returned for a follow-up appointment where doctors recommended she be admitted to a burn unit at the Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston, Texas, as her injuries were still in a severe state. The prognosis was 4 weeks of healing with expensive skin grafts or 4 months of recovery without them. Number 5. Carmen Jackie Lindhart. In 2016, in Sandy, Utah resident Carmen Jackie Lindhart lost her life in a freak baking accident. Working at the local Reams grocery store, the 45-year-old woman was doing prep work in the back when she got pulled into an industrial-sized mixer. Screaming as she was dragged in, a co-worker ran to turn off the machine, but the damage was done. The blades of the mixer caused fatal injuries and Lindhart was pronounced dead at the scene. Police suspected that loose clothing was a probable factor, but Lindhart's family believed the tragedy could have been avoided and a year later filed a wrongful death lawsuit against both the bakery and the machine's manufacturer. Number 4. Issa Ismail. On June the 22nd of 2021, 25-year-old chef Issa Ismail died when he fell into a pot of boiling hot chicken soup, working as a caterer for a wedding in Zakho, Iraq. The chef was preparing a large vat of soup to feed the hundreds of guests. According to his family, he'd been working as a chef for 8 years, cooking food for a broad array of events. This, unfortunately, was to be his last. Slipping on the floor close to the vat of soup he was cooking, he fell right in. The accident caused third-degree burns across 70% of his body. Ismail clung to life for 5 days before he eventually succumbed to his injuries, leaving behind 2 daughters and a son. Number 3. Rebecca Berger. We've discussed this case in a previous video, and you can argue about whether or not it can truly be considered a cooking accident. But given the severity of the case and the fact that we can draw attention to the product recall and maybe even prevent harm, we decided to include it. Rebecca Berger, who had a large following on Instagram, died in a freak accident in 2017 when an odd-time high-pressure whipped cream dispenser that the company had recalled 4 years prior exploded. The dispenser had been recalled in early 2013 due to concerns of the plastic top bursting off in what, by some, has been deemed as a totally ineffective recall campaign. Presumably and understandably, Rebecca had been unaware of the recall. Upon using the unsafe dispenser, it exploded and its cartridge hit Rebecca in the chest. Firefighters who arrived at the scene were able to revive her heartbeat, but Berger was unconscious when she arrived at the hospital and died the following day. 30-year-old Emile Lada, also from France, was awarded 1.1 million euros the same year when the same type of odd-time dispenser exploded, tore off part of her face, and left her with permanent disabilities, including memory failure and loss of taste and smell. Today's topic was requested by Jorge Rodriguez, Timur Gunnar, Althea Campbell, Lone Stoner Gaming, and Lil Shaq X. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Jose Molina. In Santa Fe Springs, California, a 62-year-old man by the name of Jose Molina was inadvertently cooked alive in a vat of tuna on October the 11th of 2012, unaware that Molina was inside the pressurized cooker doing maintenance work. 2 of his co-workers filled it with 12,000 pounds of fish and turned it on. According to reports, a supervisor noticed he was missing and instructed employees to search for him, but he wasn't found until 2 hours later when the pressure cooker was turned off and opened. The owner of the tuna processing plant, Bumblebee Foods, and 2 of the managers were charged with multiple counts of violating safety regulations in connection to the death. The case ended in the largest settlement involving a workplace violation death. Bumblebee Foods pled guilty to a misdemeanor, and agreed to pay $6 million to settle the criminal charges. Neither manager was given time behind bars, as one served community service and the other got 3 years of probation. Of the settlement, Molina's family was given $1.5 million in reparations. Number 1. Pradhnaya Cervez. A woman in India faced a death penalty after she poisoned food at a housewarming on June the 18th of 2018. 23-year-old Pradhnaya Cervez had been constantly insulted by her in-laws about her dark complexion and her cooking. Wanting her in-laws and her husband dead, the young woman stole snake poison to add to the dal. The event was attended by 120 people, and 88 of those ended up hospitalized with extreme stomach pain and vomiting. 5 people succumbed to the poisoning. Police determined that those who'd gotten ill had eaten later on in the event and deduced it was Cervez, who was serving at the time. Once questioned, she broke down and confessed to poisoning the food. Telling them what was in it, she admitted that her family had already eaten before she could put the poison in their meals and opted instead to give it to her intended victims' children. Cervez was charged with murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy. Thanks for watching. Would you rather chop off your pinky finger cooking or burn off your hair permanently? Let us know in the comments section below.